You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Go to our various social media pages and begin to tweet at us, WhatsApp, Facebook. Send us your reactions to the issues that we are raising this morning on the show. Now, let me introduce my guests to do this discussion. Joining us right here in the studio is the Honorable Inusa A.B. Fuseini. He's lawyer, MP, former MP, Tamale Central, and former Minister Roads and Highways. Thank you so very much for making time to join us, sir.
Thank you, Thompson.
Right.
Thank you. Your shirt is nice.
I just looked at your
This
shirt.
is my school. The school I attended, Nalerugo Secondary School.
Nalerugo?
Yes, that's where I attended.
All right.
Yes.
Theodore Albright. He's lawyer, council member, Center for Social Justice, and head of governance, legal and constitutional affairs pillar of that CSO. Thanks for joining us, Theodore Albright. Also joining us is Haruna Mohammed. He's Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. Later, we will have Alexander Kwamina Afenyoma King and Dr. Theo Echampong joining us for this discussion. So let's begin by way of some preliminary matters. I suppose that you have seen now that there are a number of suits. There is a suit by 5 different political parties, including the NDC. They are in the Supreme Court and have a straightforward request from the court, but there are some issues with that. We'll let you know as well. The National Democratic Congress, the Convention People's Party, the All People's Congress, the Liberal Party of Ghana, and the Great Consolidated People's Party are in the Supreme Court. Then later yesterday, we began to see other suits also elsewhere. There is one by Agbenoto Mercy against the Electoral Commission and the Attorney General. That one is not in the Supreme Court, it's in the High Court. Then there's another one by one Ayeta. That is Ayeta Precious against the Electoral Commission and Attorney General. As I understand, these suits are being issued or filed across the country by individuals who say their rights will be affected if the Electoral Commission is not stopped from restricting the limited registration exercise to commence on Tuesday to the less than 300 district centers. That's 268 district centers. They are insisting that this must include the electoral areas. That's 6,272 electoral areas. The EC has brought this upon itself?
Yes. Samson, first of all, let me say good morning to you. A long time, 2 weeks ago I was here, you were absent. And to our co-panelists for these morning's important discussions. Samson, just a few weeks ago I was listening to the BBC, and one of the charges against Trump was a violation of rights. The people of America have a right to determine who leads them. And so when you take steps to frustrate the enjoyment of that right, you've committed a crime, and that's the violation of rights. Now, so our Constitution is modeled along the lines, in some respects, on the American Constitution. In a democracy, and that's the legal framework, if you want, the governance framework that we have put in place to regulate our affairs as a country and determine the leadership of a country. In any democracy, and especially in a multi-party democracy, the right to vote is so fundamental that every facility must be made available to prospective registrants to register to get their names captured on the register. It's so important. It's like that is your passport to determining who leads you. And mind you, in a democracy, we say that the sovereignty resides with the people. It's captured in Article 1 of the Constitution. No one has the right to foist any person on us. That is why we condemn coup d'etats. Because the leadership of coup d'etats do not spring from the sovereign will of the people. So look at how Article 42 is formulated. It starts with a mandatory injunction. Every Ghanaian, every citizen of Ghana, then it starts setting the criteria.
18 years.
Of 18 years and above.
Sound mind.
And of sound mind is entitled to be registered and to partake in public elections and referenda. So just look at how so it's a command. It's a reaffirmation of that constitutional right of a Ghanaian of 18 years and of sound mind to be registered. I've said that, and you know, in administrative law, they have always said that you don't use administrative procedures to frustrate the enjoyment of a constitutional right. Administrative procedures are supposed to give effect, to facilitate the enjoyment of that right, but not to frustrate the enjoyment of that right. In the history, let's go back to history as well. So the Electoral Commission is a creature of the Constitution. The Constitution came into being in 1992. And since 1992, practices have evolved, where limited registration is done a certain way. Again, as lawyers and as reasonable, rational human beings, because practices were done that way, we reasonably expect that they will be continued. Not so. We reasonably expect that they will continue. So there must be reasons why there will be a departure from those steps and practices developed by the very electoral management body. Thirdly, voting in a public election or referendum is a civic responsibility. But in other jurisdictions, it's actually quite mandatory. If you don't vote, they punish you.
Yes.
But in our jurisdiction, it's a civic responsibility. And that civic responsibility must be taken seriously. Because if you don't go to vote, somebody will go to vote. And that person's views will be manifested in the outcome of the elections. And that person will determine who rules you. Now, because it's a civic responsibility, and when you go and vote, you are not entitled to any remuneration, we must be mindful of cost when fixing centers for the purposes of voting. We must be very mindful. So Ghana's electoral regime is divided into polling stations. A number of polling stations which elect an assemblyman is called an electoral area. The electoral areas, a number of electoral areas come together to form a constituency.
Right.
These are the basic structures. In any polling station, the number of registered voters should not exceed 1,000. Why is that so? One, for convenience, so that you can go and vote, and vote early and go back to whatever you are doing. Two, because it's 1,000, the possibility of you knowing those who will be on the register is higher. So it goes to the integrity of the elections. Now, when you say registration should be at the polling stations, you are empowering the grassroots at the polling stations to challenge anybody who is not resident in that polling station from registering? Who is not resident in that polling station from registering? So you enhance the integrity and reputation of the elections. Now, if you are going to do limited registration, and you think that deploying your officers all over the country at polling station level, which is about 23,000 polling stations, will be an expense, what prevents you from following your time-tested tradition of using electoral areas? What prevents you? And the electoral area, for the purposes of our listeners, is the number of polling stations within an area that elect an assemblyman. That's an electoral area.
Right.
The number of polling stations. So if you want the assembly area, assemblyman's area. So if you limit it to that, there might be 4. For instance, my area in Tishigu, there are 3 polling stations plus 1 temporary polling station at the same place. That makes 4 that elect an assemblyman. And it is a small area, except that the population is quite...
All right. So we are supposed to be really brief about this one, even though it's a very important matter such as that. But if you can tell me briefly, why do you think that the EC so far appears to call the bluff of all those who are pleading, civil society organizations, all the parties that have come together and say, this does not work, this is wrong? Why do you think the EC is calling everybody's bluff?
Impunity.
They must have good reason.
No, they have no good reason. They have no good reason. And I have had opportunity to tell them that when I was in Parliament, that they have no good reason. You see, the EC itself, probably it is not understanding its role. We know the Constitution says in the performance of their duty, they are not, except in accordance with the Constitution and any other law, they are not subject to the control and direction of anybody. But the EC is an abater. It's supposed to be an impartial abater. So it must win the confidence of the people.
It is certain that you people will mobilize your supporters from, you say some have to come from as far as 8 kilometers and so on.
No,
is it 80 kilometers?
Yes.
Between 40 and 80 kilometers,
yes.
or 50 and 80 kilometers to a particular center.
Yes.
Meaning some of them will spend the whole day traveling, and they may even need to get accommodation at the place where they are supposed to register, and they may go through frustrations, and all of that is cost. But you are interested in the elections, so why don't you take that cost and get your people to go to the center and register?
The elections, the political party's interest in elections is coterminous to the interest of all citizens of Ghana. Because that is the way, the forum, the platform that we have elected to elect our leaders. So everybody must be interested in the process. If it were just political parties, some political parties will actually cease to exist. Because if they cannot raise resources to be able to move their people, they will cease to exist. In fact, and you are right, you know Pandai. Part of the Pandai constituency is around Salaga. And so you are asking the people to come to Pandai district office for the purposes of registration. They have to travel by boat across the river to Pandai to be able to do. It might take them the whole day. And so that's why we are saying, in addition to the district offices, the Electoral Commission should endeavor to extend the registration to the electoral areas. That will guarantee the integrity of the system and show accessibility. And talking about accessibility, Regulation 2 of CI 191 as amended says that the primary consideration in giving taking into consideration when the Electoral Commission is registering voters is how close the proximity of the area to the polling station, because you don't want the voters to not to know where they will vote eventually. And accessibility, is it accessible?
All right. Actually, one of those who is suing at the High Court says that, he says, I reside at Vli, Toji in the Volta region of the Republic of Ghana. That is about 34 kilometers from the district office of the Electoral Commission in Hohoi, using mountainous footpaths and over 100 kilometers to use the Leklebi Kalime, and involves going through Republic of Togo Road. I cannot afford the cost of moving from my residence, at Vli to the first respondent's office, that's the Electoral Commission's district office at Hohoi, to take part in the limited voter registration. The other one also has a similar complaint. So let me get your other friends who are joining us this morning on this issue. Haruna, are you with us?
I'm with you, Samson.
Great. So what do you say? I heard your director of elections suggest earlier that it didn't seem convenient, that something should be done about this. Where do you stand?
First of all, I say good morning to all your cherished listeners out there, and you, yourself, and other panelists on the side of the phone. Yes, the director of elections spoke, and then he did so on the stance of the party. Considering the nature and what the Electoral Commission seeks to do, we were part of the meeting, and the New Patriotic Party, as a party, look at the position that is taken by the Electoral Commission. The stance of us is that it is very important for us to look at how these people will be registered. It will be good for other centers to be involved, as they are saying. However, is it that we need to engage and dialogue with the Electoral Commission, or we have to fight with them? There are so many ways to get this done, and we think that suing the Electoral Commission is not one of the options for us. But we believe that dialogue can resolve some of these matters.
Dialogue, but you are in a situation where the process is going to start next week, Tuesday. Don't you think they have given the EC sufficient time? We have heard from various stakeholders, chiefs, and very important people, significant persons, all calling on the Electoral Commission to reconsider its decision. We understand that since 2012, when we went biometric, it's been the electoral areas that have been used. And the electoral areas, you're talking in excess of 6,000 centers. And you have also had a period where the EC should have done some of these things. It hasn't done it for a period. So to limit it to 260 something centers instead of the 6,000 plus must have good, explanation. There must be good justification.
I disagree that it has always been at the electoral areas and also at the offices. There were instances where this registration was done at the office alone. This is limited registration. This is not a widespread registration. The Electoral Commission has done so before, and we can only make an appeal and suggest to the Electoral Commission, based on their mandate, to vary them. But to say that it has always been so, I disagree. There were instances that it only happened at the Electoral Commission's office.
When was this?
I only monitored that exercise.
When was this?
I reversed my mind to 2012. There were limited registrations, and the Electoral Commission took the same stand to do so at the district offices of the Electoral Commission. I can remember at that point in time, I, myself, and then Chairman Samba, we had some point in time to go to the Electoral Commission in Zabzu district office. And a lot of things have happened. And I myself, in that particular point in time, I had to do some monitoring. I can't vividly remember the date, but I'm refreshing my mind back from 2012 downwards. And I that some
at that time, Haruna, how many were the EC estimating to register? This time, the EC is estimating to register about 1.5 million new, voters. But even that figure, some contest that it will be far more than that. In all, before the December elections, the EC is expected to register in excess of some 3 million voters, so to speak. So at that time, I understand that was just a few thousands that were to be registered, right?
Yeah, I can't remember the figure. But whatever be the case, the correction is made that it is not that it has always been at the electoral areas or only done in the polling stations. But there were instances that the registration was done at the Electoral Commission office.
Okay.
We in the MPP believe that the numbers that you are mentioning need to be given the right by the constitution of our party to be registered. The constitution of Ghana to be registered as registered voters. Whichever way the Electoral Commission thinks that they will be able to do it, and whichever way that we also think that we can contribute to make sure that this is done, we need to use some appropriate measures. And using legal means is one of the aspects. But we believe that continue to do dialogue is one of the key points that can achieve a bigger result than fighting.
Okay. It will appear that the suits are sort of a last resort because it's next week, Tuesday. I keep repeating that because the appeals have come from all angles over the period and the EC appears to remain where it is. You said you have heard the EC's reasons. Can you share some of those reasons with us? What are the reasons for wanting to keep to the less than 300 offices rather than the 6,000 plus, centers?
I can't remember saying we have heard into reason. I said that I don't know what input they have put in to make sure that they will be able to get this number. But we believe that we will continue to dialogue. Why not? The Electoral Commissioner, they are human beings. If we even start, and there are some of these issues that are ongoing, and they realize that what majority of people are saying, they can change. It's not cast in stone. And the Electoral Commission are human beings. If they believe in their machinery and the human resource that they have, and we start and we see that it's not going to be possible, why not? We have always done so.
Okay.
When registration starts, at some point in time, the Electoral Commission can introduce other measures to be able to make sure that some of these numbers are covered. So, for me, and as a party, we believe that dialogue is key.
Okay.
And we wait to see when this process
are you concerned as the NPP, are you concerned as the other parties that doing it at the district offices, you lose something? If you do it at the electoral areas, you can have people who are there who can make the right objections. But if you go to the district office, someone is coming from far away, 80 kilometers to that place. You may not even know them. And there are other issues they raise. Are you equally concerned about these issues? Again, they raise the fact of the constitutional provision that says that the EC is supposed to organize programs that will expand the registration of voters. Expand is the keyword here, operative word. And they refer also to the regulations which say, or the CI, which says that when it is doing this exercise, it must consider places that are suitable potentially to be used as polling stations. You can't use the district office as a polling station. Are you thinking about these things? Are you concerned as well? Hello, Haruna. I think we have lost Haruna. Yes, Haruna, please, let's hear you. Please unmute your mic.
Okay.
Good. Good. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm very much concerned with the various points that you have enumerated. And I believe that registering at the center, that is the Electoral Commission Center, also has its own advantages and disadvantages. Registering or expanding to the various electoral areas or the additional areas also has its advantages and disadvantages. And I believe that all these particular issues that are being raised are valid. However, it is for us to be able to engage the Electoral Commission to be able to understand and appreciate all these facts that we are putting out so that we'll be able to get more people to register. I don't think that points that have been raised by other opponents are invalid, but we have a different position and we are all going to arrive at one particular point in time. You may say so that using this particular angle might give you a lesser number. And in conclusion, you might also see that it gives you more numbers than. So it is about process and how we all go about it.
Okay, thank you. Theodore, can we hear you briefly on this, very briefly? The EC has its district offices, 268 of them. Actually, there are 268 of such district offices. And these suits are seeking to get it to add the electoral areas, or rather use the electoral areas. And we have 6,272 electoral areas. What do you appreciate is why the EC is insisting on using its district office? I think I've heard one reason. That is that for the limited registration, which is for this period until, is it sometime in, is it October? After that, they are hoping that the continuous registration will be available. So if anybody has not registered, the continuous registration, which should have happened how many years ago, will be available. So you walk into their office and you register. What do you say?
My starting point will always be that additional rights. I repeat, administrative procedures are slave to constitutional rights. So whenever you find that constitutional rights become slave to administrative procedures, then we have a problem. That is number one. Number two, this exercise should be for the greatest number, for the widest possible net to engage the whole populace of Ghana. And so to have it so limited and so constricted that there is a likelihood that people will not be able to engage is an offense. An offense of social justice is an offense against individuals being able to exercise their constitutional rights and in fact, being able to exercise their franchise. So let's pull back. You know, justice not only must be done, but it must be seen to be done. At this stage, the seeing is not happening and the doing is not happening. So I would say to my honorable friend that we need to go back to the drawing board and ask the EC to have a wider net cast to engage the greatest possible number so that all Ghanaians can exercise their franchise. It is not good to so constrict it because it will then reek of some sort of conspiracy, and we don't want to go there. Thank you very much.
Now that the injunction applications are being filed left, right, center, it does appear we are getting into the situation like the Ayi Mensah case, right? Where this one individual, you know, his right was being frustrated, and led by his able counsel, Afenyoma King, went to the court, and the EC had already done all the preparations, spent all the money to start the process, and the court said, hold on, you can't have it, until his matter was heard and he was adjudged victorious, and we were told we lost millions of Ghana cedis in the process. Haruna is talking about the need, you know, to as it were, negotiate and deliberate rather than going to court. Because if you do this, once the injunction applications are served on the Electoral Commission, their hands are tied. They can't organize this process on Tuesday. And that will mean cost to all of us as a state. We're a broke nation, are we not?
Okay, so let me say this. I'll quote my grandmother, God bless her. I think because there's something you see court tonight. When you frustrate the rights of the citizenry and they have no recourse to any other solution, where else would they go? Back to court. That is number one. And why do you make the victim of this situation the victim? It is for the EC to step back and say, we will expand the exercise to address the concerns. It's not for the victims, the vocal victims, to shout and scream.
I just mentioned again that we are broke. We know that as a matter of fact. Why do we want the EC to spend so much money for 6,000 plus centers?
You see, in law, with respect, it is better for many guilty persons to go free than one innocent person to go amiss. And I'm telling you that this isn't a matter where you say we will ignore the rights of the individual. The EC is a servant of the people. I repeat, the EC is a servant of the people. And so when the people give a voluble sound and a note to them to say, please, where you're going is not good for us, they need to pull back. As for the resources, look, we have found money for many things, of which I don't want to go into, but empowering the citizenry to make a choice as to who governs them, to my mind, is a paramount right that should not be excluded by administrative technicalities.
Okay.
So please, money, resource should not be an issue or an argument for denying me of my right,
all right,
constitutional right
Thank
to
you.
vote.
Thank you, Theodore. Now, I need to put this also across that in the course of the week, once the suit was filed, and we understood, particularly at the Supreme Court, and we understood that the injunction application, the registrar was unable to give a date. The suspicion that you have heard some people raise is that this is the EC, as in working with the executive. EC is part of the executive, is it not? Working with the executive, so to speak, and the courts to try and, stop and frustrate the NDC and the other parties from being successful at it. Because the point is that once a date was given, then they could have served the processes on the EC. But once they were unable to get the dates, they are unable to they are unable to file it, and they are unable to serve the process on the EC. And not serving it on the EC meant that on Tuesday, the process will go on. And they were told that there's a directive from the CJ that they can get a date on Monday. You have heard all sorts of suspicions raised about that. I have confirmed that the directive by the CJ was not given as a result of this application, but it was given before it. So they didn't even know and didn't expect that there would be any such suit coming. And that there are actually other applications and motions that are sitting there that have suffered the same fate. So the conspiracy theory that this is deliberate to frustrate those who have gone to court, I think this is just for you. But now that is being filed all over the places, I suspect the EC would have been served. So it looks like a legal strategy.
So the EC has been served. I mean, I can tell you as a matter of fact that the EC has been served.
Yes, not the one with the Supreme Court, because that one you don't have a date, so you can't even. Right.
So the second thing is that Haruna says that dialogue. Conventions with this suit number J1/22/2023 was filed on the 4th of was it 4th? Yes, 7th of September 2023. The parties are.
I've read it.
Yeah, the NDC. Good.
Yeah.
The most important point I'm making here is that 3 or 4 members, 4 parties to this suit were part of a meeting at the Electoral Commission with the MPP sitting in the meeting. These four political parties objected to limiting the registration to the district offices. And so Mama Haruna, this decision of the EC to limit the registration of new voters to their district offices was objected to at an IPAC meeting by 4 of the 5 parties to this. So there have been dialogue. Instead of the dialogue got them nowhere.
Okay. Thank you very much. There's also the Domestic Election Observers, CODEO,
Yes.
which also appealed to the EC to listen. There is NCC.
The Scare Ghana.
Yes. Okay, so the EC must have a better reason, but unfortunately, it does look like this is where we are going. And maybe on Tuesday, this cannot happen, and they would have put the nation to cost. But let's see. Dialogue is always good. We can talk between now and then and see how things go. Thank you very much. Send us your messages. We will share them with the rest of the world. And do you also think that public funds should be put to this kind of litigation? Should the EC use your money to hire lawyers to go to court and insist that it should remain the less than 300 districts where this exercise will go on, instead of what the parties are insisting on, that it should be in the 6,000 plus centers, electoral areas? Share your messages with us.